Hello, transitions. We are diving into lesson 8 today. So we're going to combine the multiplication rule and then a power to a power. Okay, so a lot of multiplying and adding today. Okay, so notice with these 6 problems, you can see multiple parts in parentheses. So that's kind of where we're going to split this up. Okay, so we can see for number 19, it starts with this first set of parentheses. And I'm just going to focus on that, okay? So I'm looking at this -4, and I'm going to double check inside those parentheses that everything has an exponent. And we can see that A does not, so I'm going to put a 1 there. So now I'm going to take that -4 on the outside, and because it's a power to a power, we're going to multiply. So -4 times 1 gives me A to the -4. Then I'm going to do that same thing with my B. So -4 times 2 gives me B to the -8. So I'm done with my first part. So now let's go ahead and take a look at my second part. Okay, let's do that same process. Take the number on the outside, so -1, and take your power to a power. So -1 times 4 gives me A to the -4. And then we see that we have this B to the 0. Well, we know anything times 0 gets me 0, and we know that anytime we have an exponent that's a 0, it just gets us 1. So I'm going to cross that one out. So right now, my expression is the following. I've got this A to the -4, B -8, A -4. Okay, but we can see we have multiple A's. So let's go ahead and combine those. So when I do that, we can see that we're going -4 plus -4, which gives us -8. So right now my answer is A to the -8, B to the -8. But, as I've said countless times, there should not be negative exponents in your answer. So this is all over 1, and all we need to do is flip the location. So let's take that A to the -8, flip it to the bottom, B to the -8, flip it to the bottom. So my final answer here, because nothing's on top, I'll have a 1, and then I'll have A to the 8th, B to the 8th, because when you flip it, it changes the sign. And that is my final answer for number 1. Or should I say number 19? Okay, so let's do that same process for number 20. We're going to break it up into parts, see if we can simplify it, and then combine our variables that have the same base. Okay, so if you notice in this first part of this problem in number 20, this doesn't have a set of parentheses, so that's going to stay exactly the same. So I'm going to start with just going 2A squared, B squared, and now I'm going to go ahead and focus on the second part and do the power to a power with that chunk. Okay, so let's start with making sure everything has an exponent, and in this case the 2 does not, so I'm going to put a 2 here. So let's go ahead and take our power to power. So take the 3 on the outside and multiply it by each exponent. So 3 times 1 gives me 2 to the 3rd. Then I'm going to take that 3, multiply it by 4. So I'll have A to the 12th. And then I'm going to take that 3 and multiply it by -2. So B to the -6. Okay, so we can see I have this long expression here. So I've got multiple things that I can combine using multiplication rule, meaning we're going to add exponents. So if you're looking at that first 2, the 2 doesn't have an exponent, but we can put a 1 on it. So let's go 2, and then 2 to the 3. So 1 plus 3 gives me 2 to the 4th. Okay, then we can go ahead and look at our A's. So I've got an A to the 2nd power and A to the 12th power. So 2 plus 12 gives me A to the 14th. And then we'll do that same thing with our B's. So for our B's here, I've got B to the 2nd power, B squared, and then B to the -6. So 2 plus -6 gets me B to the -4. Okay, so I've got my expression here, but I'm still not quite done yet because I still have to simplify the first term and my negative exponents. So remember, this is all over 1. So the first thing I want to do is plug this 2 to the 4th in my calculator and see what I get. So 2 caret 4, that gets us 16. So I've got 16, A to the 14th on top. But notice, my B to the -4th's on top. We got to move it to the bottom to make it positive. So B to the 4th is on the denominator, and that is our final answer. Okay, again, like I said in the previous video, the work is getting a little bit more challenging, but if you get stuck, let me know, and I can walk you through some more problems. All right, so our next one, 21. Let's look at each part, see if it has a power to simplify. So notice this first chunk, it does not. There's no parentheses on the outside, so I'm just going to bring that down. But I'm also going to add the exponent on there too. So b to the first power and a to the fourth. Okay, staying exactly the same. But notice the second chunk, it does have a power. It does have this parentheses with a number on the outside. So let's take that number and multiply it by everything inside. But we got to make sure everything has an exponent. Notice this 2 does not. So I'm going to add a 1 to it. So let's take that -3 and multiply each exponent by it. So -3 times 1 gets me 2 to the -3. Then I'm going -3 times -1, which gets me a to the +3. And then again, notice we got b to the 0, and anything times 0 gets a 0, so that's gone, that's out of there. See you later, adios, bye-bye. Okay, so now our next step would be to simplify what has the same base, meaning the same variable. And in this case, we can see that we've got multiple a's. Okay, I've got this a to the fourth, I've got this a to the third power, so 4 plus 3 gets me 7. So I've got this 2 to the -3, a to the 7, b to the first, but I'm still not done yet because I've got this negative exponent and I need to move it. Okay, so I need to move it and evaluate it. So in this case, we know our a to the 7th will be on top with our b to the first. And then on the bottom, we would have 2 to the third, but 2 to the third, let's see, 2 caret 3 gets us 8. And this is our final answer. All right, on to number 22. Same process, look at each part, see if it's got a power. So this one does not, so I'm going to rewrite it down here. So v to the first, u to the -3. And then we're going to take our power in our second part. But remember, does everything have an exponent? In this case, not quite. The 2 does not, so I'm putting a 1 with it. And now let's take that power. So 2 times 1 gives me 2. So I got 2 squared for my first part. Then I'm going to take that 2 and multiply it by my u exponent. So that would give me -4. And then lastly, I'll do the same thing with my v exponent. So 2 times 2 gets me v to the fourth. Okay, so now I've got this long expression. I need to combine what has the same base, meaning the same variable, and then evaluate the larger number. Okay, so let's start with 2 squared. Let's do that. Everybody knows 2 times 2 gets me 4. So I got a 4 out front. And then let's go ahead and simplify the u. Okay, so our u here, we've got, let's see, we've got a u to the -3, and we've got a u to the -4. We're going to add those together. So -3 plus -4 gets me u to the -7. And then we're going to do that same thing with my v's. Okay, so my v's here, I've got a v to the first power, I've got a v to the fourth power, so 1 plus 4 gets me v to the fifth power. Okay, so my last step here is to just deal with that negative exponent. So remember, this is all over 1. So then my final answer here will be 4v to the fifth on the numerator. But I'm going to go ahead and bring that u to the 7th down to the bottom to keep it positive, or make it positive. So then u to the 7th is on the denominator for this to be our final answer. All right, we're doing great. Let's keep it up. Let's on to the next, number 23. Okay, so number 23, we can see our first chunk does have a power, so we do need to double check that everything is exponents, and we can see again that this number does not. Okay, so we've added that exponent, now we can go ahead and multiply through. So -3 times 1 gets me 2 to the -3. Then I've got my u, so -3 times -2 gets me u to the 6th. My next variable here is v, so I'm going -3 times -4, which gets me v to the 12th. And then you can go ahead and see the second part. The second part, there's not a power, there's nothing to simplify, so just bring it on down, and let's add an exponent to that to that 2, excuse me. So I'd have 2 to the first, v to the second. So now again, I have this long expression, but I still need to simplify what has the same base, meaning same variables. So in this problem, we can see that my 2's are the same. So I've got negative 3 plus 1, giving me 2 to the negative 2. Then I can look at my u's. Okay, my u's, there's nothing else to simplify, so let's just go ahead and bring it down. So I've got u to the 6th. And then lastly, let's take a look at v. So for v, I've got 12, and I've got 2. So 12 plus 2 gives me v to the 14th. Okay, remember this is all over 1, and our last step here is to take care of that negative exponent. So my negative exponent here is 2 to the negative 2. Let's bring it down, and that makes it 2 squared, which we know that 2 squared gets us 4. So my final answer here is u to the 6th, v to the 14th, all over 4. Because again, 2 squared gets me 4. And that's my final answer for number 23. All right, last one. We can see for this one, the multiplication is inside the parentheses, but we can just treat it like what we've been doing for all of the other problems by just starting with, does everything have an exponent? And in this case, yes. And then taking that exponent on the outside through to the inside exponents. So negative 4 times 2 gets me y to the negative 8. Then I've got my x to the negative 3, but let's see, take that negative 4 times negative 3, giving me y to the 12th. And then lastly, I've got y to the 4th, so negative 4 times 4 gets me y to the negative 16. Oh, my mistake here. I noticed that I wrote a y instead of x. It should be x to the 12th. Okay, that's x to the 12th. My bad. All right, so let's keep going. We're going to take our bases and combine them if they're the same. So we can see we only have one x, so I'm going to just keep that x to the 12th there. And then our last step here is to combine my last y. So I've got a negative 8 and a negative 16. So if we add those together, that would get us y to the negative 24. But as I've said, we don't want negative exponents in this in our answers. This is over 1. So we're going to take that y to the negative 24 and bring it down to the denominator. So I've got x to the 12th on the top and y to the 24th on the bottom for my final answer. Okay, so we're going to continue practicing this skill. So if you're not 100% confident on it, that's okay. Okay, well, I'll release more videos and more stuff next week that can help us, practice that. But again, as I've said before, if you have any questions, please just let me know. Okay, email me, anything, put a comment on Google Classroom, anything. I will help you guys out as much as I can. Okay, see you later.